In the world of modern car content on YouTube, very few stories spread as fast as something unexpected happening between a big car brand and a popular creator. One such story is about Koenigsegg sending a surprise package to Mat Armstrong, a well-known car builder and YouTuber. What makes this situation interesting is not just the package itself, but what it represents. Koenigsegg is one of the most exclusive hypercar makers in the world, known for producing extremely limited and very expensive cars. On the other hand, Mat Armstrong is someone who usually works on crashed supercars, rebuilding and restoring vehicles like Ferraris and Lamborghinis on his channel. So when people hear that Koenigsegg sent him official merchandise like hoodies and t-shirts, it immediately feels unusual and worth talking about. It creates curiosity because there is no obvious reason for this interaction. Mat has never owned or rebuilt a Koenigsegg before, so this is not a typical customer relationship or repair job. Instead, it feels more like the beginning of communication between two very different sides of the car world. This is why the story quickly became interesting to viewers. It is simple, but it raises a big question. Why would such a private and elite car brand reach out to a content creator who has never worked with their cars? That question alone is enough to pull attention and keep people watching or reading. In the background of all this, there is also a bigger change happening in the automotive world. Brands are starting to understand that YouTube creators now have massive influence, sometimes even more than traditional car magazines. So this small package becomes something bigger when viewed in that context. It is not just about clothing or gifts. It is about attention, recognition, and possibly future collaboration. That Tio understand why the situation stands out. It is important to look at Mat Armstrong himself and the type of work he does. Mat is a car builder and YouTuber who became popular by buying damaged or crashed performance cars and rebuilding them from scratch. His content often shows full repair journeys, where a broken supercar slowly comes back to life. This includes cars from brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini, which are two of the most respected names in the automotive industry. Over time, Mat has built a strong reputation because he does not just show the cars. He actually restores them in detail, often dealing with huge repair costs and complex engineering challenges. His audience trusts him because his videos feel real and hands-on. This is important because it explains why a brand like Koenigsegg noticing him makes sense in today's media world. Even though Mat has never worked on a Koenigsegg, he has proven that he can handle extremely complex vehicles. His channel reaches millions of viewers, many of whom are passionate car enthusiasts. So from a brand perspective, Mat represents influence, storytelling, and visibility. When Koenigsegg sends him merchandise, it might not be about his past work with their cars, but about what he represents as a creator. At the same time, there's an interesting contrast here. The brands he has worked with most, like Ferrari and Lamborghini, are not shown as engaging with him in the same way. This creates a feeling of imbalance that viewers immediately notice. It makes people think about how different companies treat modern creators. Some brands still rely on traditional marketing methods, while others are more open to direct engagement with online influencers. This difference is part of what makes the story feel bigger than just a package delivery. It becomes a reflection of how the automotive industry is changing in the digital age. The most interesting part of the story is not the merchandise itself, but the reaction and meaning behind it. When Mat received the package from Koenigsegg, it is not just clothing. It feels like recognition from one of the most exclusive car makers in the world. Koenigsegg is known for building extremely rare hypercars, often producing only a small number of vehicles each year, each worth millions of dollars. Because of this, the brand is usually seen as very close and highly selective about its image. That is why sending a package to a YouTuber like Mat feels unusual and important. Inside the package are items like hoodies, t-shirts, and official branded goods, along with notes suggesting that he watched their videos. This detail adds another layer to the story, because it suggests that Koenigsegg is not just randomly sending gifts. It appears they are actively trying to connect or communicate. From Mat's point of view, the surprise is even stronger because he has never owned, driven, or even worked closely with a Koenigsegg car before. Yet here he is, holding official merchandise from the company. This creates a moment of irony in the story. The brands he has spent years working with, such as Ferrari and Lamborghini, have not shown the same kind of direct attention in this case, even though his work has helped promote their cars to millions of viewers. This contrast is what makes the moment so powerful for audiences. It feels like a shift in how recognition works in the automotive world. Instead of only rewarding ownership or direct business relationships, brands may now be paying attention to influence and audience reach. That idea changes how people view success in the car content space. It is no longer just about owning expensive cars, but about how much impact your content is online. When looking deeper into the situation, it becomes clear that it is not just about one package, but about modern marketing strategies in the automotive industry. Brands like Koenigsegg operate in a very competitive and highly specialized market. Their customers are extremely wealthy, and their production numbers are very low. Because of this, traditional advertising methods do not always work in the same way they do for mass-market cars. Instead, visibility and storytelling become more important. This is where creators like Mat Armstrong play a key role. His videos reach millions of viewers who are deeply interested in cars, even if they may never buy a hypercar themselves. However, that audience still shapes opinions, builds brand awareness, and creates long-term value for manufacturers. Sending merchandise might seem small, but in marketing terms, it can be a way to start a relationship. It creates awareness without requiring a formal partnership. It also signals openness, which is important in a world where content creators often influence public perception more than traditional media. At the same time, companies like Ferrari and Lamborghini have historically taken a more controlled approach to their image. They focus heavily on exclusivity, heritage, and brand protection. This means they do not always engage directly with independent creators in the same way. There is no right or wrong approach here, but the difference is noticeable. Koenigsegg appears more flexible and modern in how it interacts with online communities, while other brands maintain stricter boundaries. This difference becomes even more interesting when viewed through the lens of social media growth. As creators like Matt continue to grow their audiences, brands may increasingly compete for attention in this space. What seems like a simple package today could be the first step in a much larger collaboration tomorrow. Another important angle in this story is how audiences interpret these kinds of interactions. When people see Matt receiving a package from Koenigsegg, it immediately creates discussion online. Viewers start asking questions like whether this is the beginning of a collaboration or whether Koenigsegg is planning to feature in future videos. This kind of speculation is powerful because it keeps the audience engaged. Even without a confirmed partnership, the possibility alone drives attention. In contrast, the lack of visible interaction from brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini in this situation adds to the conversation. It makes viewers compare how different manufacturers behave in the modern media landscape. However, it is also important to understand that these brands operate under different rules and expectations. Companies like Lamborghini and Ferrari have built their identities over decades, and they are very careful about how their image is presented. They rely heavily on tradition, exclusivity, and controlled marketing campaigns. On the other hand, newer communication styles in the automotive world are more open and flexible. This shift is largely driven by platforms like YouTube, where creators can build massive audiences without needing traditional media approval. Mat Armstrong represents this new type of influence. He does not just review cars. He rebuilds them, tells stories about them, and shares the entire process with viewers. That level of transparency builds trust and engagement. So when a brand acknowledges him, even in a small way like sending merchandise, it carries symbolic weight. It suggests that the brand is paying attention to where modern influence is happening. This is why the story feels bigger than it actually is. It is not just about clothing in a box. It is about how recognition, influence, and marketing are evolving together in real time. In the end, this situation is less about a physical package and more about what it represents for the future of automotive content. The interaction between Mat Armstrong and Koenigsegg highlights a shift in how car brands and creators connect. In the past, relationships between manufacturers and media were formal and controlled, often limited to press events, magazine reviews, or official partnerships. Today, however, the rise of digital platforms has changed everything. A single creator with millions of subscribers can have as much impact as a traditional media outlet. This is why companies like Koenigsegg are beginning to appear more open to engaging with online personalities. It is not necessarily about selling directly to viewers, but about staying relevant in a rapidly changing media environment. Meanwhile, creators like Mat Armstrong continue to grow their influence by showing real, hands-on experiences with cars that people dream about. Even if he has never worked on a Koenigsegg before, his audience and storytelling ability make him an important figure in automotive culture. This is where the real meaning of the story lies. It is not about ownership or past experience. It is about attention, reach, and storytelling power. Whether this leads to a future collaboration or not, the message is already clear. The automotive world is no longer only controlled by manufacturers and traditional media. It is now shaped by creators, audiences, and digital platforms. And in this new environment, even a simple package of hoodies and t-shirts can become a symbol of something much larger. Another layer to this story is how much influence social media has started to have on the automotive world, especially when it comes to luxury and hypercar brands. In the past, companies like Koenigsegg, Ferrari, and Lamborghini mostly depended on traditional marketing. They would show their cars in controlled events, invite selected journalists, and carefully manage who could even see or talk about their newest models. But now, the situation is very different because of YouTube and other video platforms. A creator like Mat Armstrong does not just show a car. He shows the full journey of that car. From damage or repair to final reveal, the audience experiences everything step by step. This type of storytelling builds a much stronger emotional connection compared to a short magazine article or showroom presentation. Because of this shift, brands are now paying more attention to people who can tell stories instead of just reporting facts. When Koenigsegg sends a simple package of merchandise, it may seem small, but in the modern media world, it can act like a soft introduction or even a silent handshake. It shows awareness without making a formal announcement. It also shows that the brand understands where attention is moving. Millions of people now follow creators more closely than official brand channels, especially in niche communities like supercars and hypercars. So even a small gesture can become a big talking point online. This is what makes the situation so interesting. It is not about the value of the hoodie or t-shirt. It is about the signal behind it. It suggests that Koenigsegg is not just building cars, but also building relationships with people who shape public opinion. And in today's world, attention is just as valuable as engineering as the story continues to spread. It also highlights a growing gap between different approaches in the car industry. On one side, you have companies like Koenigsegg that appear more open to modern communication. They are willing to interact with creators, send merchandise, and possibly explore future collaborations. On the other side, there are long-established brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini that still rely heavily on tradition and controlled branding. These companies have built their reputation over decades, and they are extremely careful about how their image is used. For them, exclusivity is not just a marketing strategy. It is part of their identity. This means they often prefer official partnerships, press events, and carefully chosen media appearances rather than open interaction with independent creators. Neither approach is wrong, but they create very different public reactions. When Koenigsegg sends a package to someone like Mat Armstrong, it feels modern, spontaneous, and personal. It creates excitement because it breaks expectations. People are not used to seeing hypercar brands reach out in such a casual way. Meanwhile, the more traditional brands maintain a sense of distance, which can make them feel more formal and controlled. This difference is what fuels much of the online discussion. Viewers start comparing brands, not just based on their cars, but based on how they communicate. This is a major shift in how automotive reputation is built today. It is no longer only about speed, design, or price. It is also about personality, presence, and engagement with online communities. In that sense, Koenigsegg's small action becomes much more meaningful than it first appears. Another important point in this situation is how creators like Mat Armstrong are changing the definition of influence in the automotive space. In the past, influence came from journalists, racing drivers, or official brand ambassadors. Today, influence often comes from people who can connect directly with large online audiences. Mat is a perfect example of this shift. He does not just talk about cars. He shows the entire process of rebuilding them. This includes buying damaged vehicles, sourcing expensive parts, dealing with technical problems, and eventually bringing the car back to life. This type of content is both educational and entertaining, which is why it attracts millions of viewers. It also builds trust, because viewers feel like they are part of the journey rather than just watching a polished advertisement. This is exactly why brands like Koenigsegg may find value in connecting with him. Even though he has never worked on their cars, his audience overlaps with the type of people who are interested in high-performance engineering and exotic vehicles. In marketing terms, this is extremely valuable. It is not just about selling cars, but about shaping how people think about the brand. When a creator with millions of followers mentions a company, even indirectly, it creates awareness that traditional ads cannot easily achieve anymore. This is also why the idea of sending merchandise becomes more important than it seems. It is not a random gift. It is a form of soft communication. It says, "We see you and we are paying attention." That message alone can open doors for future collaborations, events, or even direct involvement in content. The automotive world is slowly moving toward this kind of relationship building, where creators and manufacturers interact more openly and frequently than before. Looking deeper into the audience reaction, it becomes clear that stories like this are not just about cars, but about human curiosity and comparison. People naturally like to compare how different companies behave, especially when they are part of the same industry. When viewers see Koenigsegg sending merchandise while other brands remain silent, it creates a strong emotional response. Some people see it as respect, others see it as smart marketing, and some simply see it as a sign of changing times. This kind of debate helps the story grow even further because it keeps people talking. In the background, companies like Ferrari and Lamborghini continue to operate in their own structured way, focusing on brand heritage and controlled exposure. Meanwhile, newer approaches focus on openness and digital presence. The truth is that both strategies have strengths. Traditional brands maintain prestige and exclusivity, while modern engagement